You know, one of my favorite things about the White House's reaction to last week's revelations over the Biden family's corruption was this new statement they put out. Oh, we've been saying over and over again for years that the president was not in business with his son Hunter. No, actually, they've not been saying that for years. What they've been saying for years is that the president didn't even talk to his son about his business, knew nothing about his son's business. They never made the case that he wasn't in business. That's an important distinction. They're moving the goalposts. But here's the really funny thing. He was in business with his son. I know that because I've been reading the great investigative work from Peter Schweizer, who's been all over the Biden family's corruption for many, many years, before it was cool. Peter Schweizer from the Government Accountability Institute. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Great to be with you always, Larry. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, everyone's pointing at, oh, look, they've changed the language. Now they're saying he wasn't in business, but you probably have to shake your head and say, oh, of course he was in business, right? Without a doubt.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, they've shifted the goalposts so many times. In 2018, the first thing was there were no business deals in China. Then it became, well, he had business deals in China, but he made no money. Then it switched to, okay, he made money, but Joe Biden never talked to his son about his business dealings. Now it has evolved, as you said, to saying, well, he did not participate in his son's business dealings. All of those are inaccurate and falsehoods. All you have to do is look and ask the question, what was Hunter Biden's business? They took in tens of millions of dollars from these overseas entities. There's no tangible service or product that they were selling, and yet the money kept coming. And the reason the money kept coming is because the product was Joe Biden.
Yeah.
We know that Joe Biden met with and talked with his business partners. We know that Joe Biden received some of the money through Hunter in terms of Hunter paying for things for his lifestyle. So he was absolutely an active participant.
Peter, what really concerned me about this press conference on Friday, which was extraordinary because finally you saw some other reporters saying, hey, maybe there's something here. It was the fact that it was Admiral John Kirby, who's the spokesperson for the National Security Council, because this is more than just your good old-fashioned government corruption and selling access, which it is. But this really is a national security issue when you look at who's giving the Biden family this money, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a key point that I would make and that I hope the congressional committee makes is it's not just a question of the corruption. It's, as you said, who's giving them the money. If you look at China, you look at the three businessmen that landed the biggest deals for Hunter Biden, totaling some $31 million. Each and every one of them has ties to the highest levels of Chinese intelligence. And that's not hyperbole. One guy, Henry Zhao, that wired $5 million to Hunter Biden, wired it from an account in Hong Kong that he shared with the family of the former Minister of State Security, who ran the entire spy apparatus of China. The same sort of things applies to all the businessmen. So, yeah, this is not just about corruption. This has all the hallmarks of a Chinese effort to recruit or influence or develop compromise on the first family of the United States. And that makes it a national security and espionage question, not just a corruption one.
Congressman Jim Jordan, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, has said that he's going to try to subpoena the information with regard to what's now being called a burner phone that Hunter Biden purchased for his father. I think you were the one who actually uncovered this with the great investigative work that you do. What can you tell us about this phone? When was it purchased for Joe Biden?
Yeah, it lines up with when Joe Biden was vice president. So it was purchased in 2009. And the bill, according to Hunter Biden's laptops, Hunter Biden's own emails, the bill was being paid for that phone, Joe Biden's phone, by Hunter Biden's business, Rosemont Seneca Partners. And that means that Hunter Biden had access to him via that phone number. So did the other Rosemont Seneca partners, Eric Schweizer and others. And that phone kept in Joe Biden's possession until he left the vice presidency. We only uncovered it, Larry, because Hunter Biden was asking his dad to pay his own phone bill because he was tired of his business having to do so. So this, in my mind, is crucial because if the allegation is true that there are phone recordings of Joe Biden talking to a Burisma executive about a bribe, I would bet this is the phone that phone call took place on.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but when your son's company purchases a phone for you to use, aren't you kind of in business with your son? I mean, that's a company phone.
Yeah, that it sounds about right. That's
Yeah.
correct. And the other important thing to remember is this means Joe Biden can't claim executive privilege. He can't claim privacy. Not a government phone, not his personal phone. This is the property of a private company that is being run by his son.
Even if that phone conversation took place while he was in the West Wing or in the old executive office building, it's not a government phone. That's an important point too, and that's why I think the Judiciary Committee is looking after these phone records. Let me ask you this. We've, of course, heard about this infamous meeting with an executive from Burisma when President Biden was vice president. We know that there was a demand for $5 million for Hunter Biden and for Joe Biden. And this FBI informant, a credible informant, has said that the payments were made. Through your research, has there been any payments around that time to Hunter Biden's companies that have lined up with the $5 million price tag?
Not to my research, but that's only because, the Bidens are known, and it could be more, they're known to have used 12 separate banks for financial transactions. We know that Burisma, which is the company that allegedly sent this bribe to the Bidens, helped Hunter Biden set up a bank account in Malta. Right now, the congressional committees, the House Oversight Committee, has subpoenaed records from 4 of those 12 banks. So we don't have the transactions, but I got to tell you, a lot of this rings true. Joe Biden made a very, very curious trip in January of 27, just hours before Donald Trump was sworn in as president of the United States. Where was Joe Biden? Where was the sitting vice president? He was in Ukraine. He took a last-minute plane trip to Ukraine where he met with Ukrainian officials. Just a couple of days before that trip, Burisma announced that the Ukrainian government was no longer investigating Burisma on corruption, and it was going to create a whole host of capital opportunities. So there's a lot of suspicious behavior here, and this conforms with what we know about the Bidens and how they have operated.
Hold on. I just want to make sure that we soak in this for a moment, a little marinade. After 45 years of public service, holding office as a United States Senator and then Vice President for 8 years, just days after he is now retired and no longer responsible for any elected position, he takes a break by going to Ukraine? He immediately went to Ukraine?
Well, Larry, it's actually the few days before he was leaving the vice presidency, which makes it even more
That's
suspicious.
even more suspicious.
Exactly.
In his final days as vice president, with any kind of influence over the government, he goes to Ukraine.
Yeah, and he meets with Poroshenko, who was then the leader of Ukraine, and other Ukrainian officials. 4 days before that, Burisma, his son's energy company, which allegedly also paid this bribe to Joe Biden, announced publicly that the Ukrainian government had ceased all investigations on corruption pertaining to that company.
Peter Schweizer, we've seen these scandals come and go, and we've seen the narrative change. We've already pointed out that first it was never knew anything about his business, never talked to him. Oh, sure, he made money, but I never was involved with it, and I didn't make any money. And now it's I wasn't in business with him. I feel like we're only a couple of weeks away before the message is, sure, there was money made from foreign entities, but not, and we took a couple of meetings here and there, but not one policy decision was affected by the money. Is that the bar? First of all, do you think that they can credibly say that? And is that the legal bar? As long as he can say, hey, we would have done this thing with the prosecutor anyway, it doesn't matter that they paid us. Isn't that still against the law?
Yeah, it still is against the law. Imagine you're a county council member and you take a bribe from a developer to vote in favor of something. To say, well, I would have voted in favor of it anyway, still does not excuse the fact that you took a bribe.
Right.
Look, the other thing we have to realize is corruption takes many forms. One is the quid pro quo that we hear about. The other one is akin to a retainer agreement, right? You basically have got politicians or politicians' family on the payroll to sort of just nudge them along a more general favorable posture. That is also illegal. So whether it's quid pro quo, a specific policy change, or a so-called retainer agreement, it is still corruption. It is still illegal.
Peter Schweizer's book, Profiles in Corruption, is a must-read to help get a handle on exactly what we're seeing in the headlines today. And his work at Government Accountability Institute is absolutely critical. Peter Schweizer, thank you for joining us tonight, sir.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Larry.
There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Keep it here at Salem News Channel.